Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game from Scratch, and today we are talking about a newly open source 2D game engine called, and you're going to bear with me on this one, I think nCine? I like the name nCine from spelling that, but nCine. That's the downside to doing this job. You never hear these things said out loud, and that's not a real word. So actually pronouncing it, no idea. It's nCine, and I have no idea. If you know actually how to pronounce this, let me know comments down below. But for this video, I'm going to call it the nCine engine because that is the pronunciation I like the best. So what exactly is nCine or nCine? This is a multi-platform 2D game engine that runs on PC, so Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and Android. It's been in development since 2011, and the developer apparently used to work at EA on the Frostbite engine, at least so my research has told me. Source code is released under the MIT license and is available on GitHub. Speaking of GitHub, this page is also from GitHub. So what we are looking at right now is nCine.github.io. And what you're probably wondering is what are the features and why the hell should you use the nCine engine? And those features, we'll do those first. So we've got an IM GUI-based debug overlay and profilers built in. We've got Lua integration for scripting built in, OpenGL 3.3, OpenGL ES 3.0 rendering built in, sprite sheet-based animated sprites, scene graph-based transformations, particle simulations with effectors, sound and music playing, text rendering with kerning, support for multiple texture formats, profiler graphs and statistics, works on multiple platforms, template containers and algorithms. It's fully C++ compliant code base, high precision, monotonic timers, atomic counters, thread pool creation, synchronization, and affinity assignment, basic math libraries for vectors, 4x4 matrices, and quaternions, logging system with multiple levels, and console or file output, GLFW3 or SDL2 for the windowing and input sources, joystick support with hot swap and gamepad mapping, Android assets support, Google test-based unit tests with coverage checked with whatever they pronounced, micro benchmarked with Google Benchmark, deoxygen-based documentation, periodically checked with CPP check and Valgrind, periodically linted with Clang format, instrumentation for the Tracy frame profiler. And then you see the stuff that they're looking to add in the future, and a lot of people are going to be asking about this one. Yes, a Vulkan renderer is in the works at some point in time. So now the next question you might have is, why the heck should I choose nCine? And here are some of the reasons from the horse's mouth. So we've got, there are so many game engines out there, yet another one is just a complete waste of time for both the author and potential user. Am I right? I know it wasn't a waste for me. I learned plenty of stuff and had fun programming it, and a lot of times that's what the open source little smaller library is all about. It's someone doing and learning what they're doing, and I appreciate that. Even if it's never actually useful to anyone else other than maybe a code reference, there is value there. It may have ceased being a waste for others too. The project grew a lot during those years and could come in handy sometimes. It will likely be less fascinating to users of big engines like Unity, Unreal, or Godot, but be interested for users for smaller ones like libgdx or Cocos2dx, or frameworks like Love, SFML, and LWJGL. So if you're looking at kind of getting lower level, this is more for you. Some of the use cases are, it can be used for small multi-platform 2D games. You can program your game in C++ for maximum performance and ability to customize the engine itself, or you can use the Lua bindings for prototypes or game jams. You can use the IM GUI integration and put together game development tools like I did with my particle editor. They would be multi-platform and would work on Android as well. When compiled as a static library, it becomes a graphics demo framework, and every low-level implementation class would be accessible, including the OpenGL and threading layers. All the other features would still be available, like multi-platform abstraction, the template library, or the render doc and tracing integrations. Last but not least, being a minimal open source engine programmed by a single person, I hope it might represent a starting point to learn and experiment with game engine programming. So if you're looking at getting into a game engine, you want to build something more complex perhaps on top of this, this is a starting point. And when you've got GUI tools and Lua scripting built in out of the box and a bunch of frameworks to work on top of, that's a very valid possibility. Okay, so now on to the source code. Source code is available predictably enough on GitHub. The repository is github/nCine, which I guess was predictable enough. You'll see here you've got a couple of different categories here. So nCine is where the actual game itself is, and then split off the data for the things like the logos and graphics used and such are all split into the data category. They've also created Pong. Pong is just a kind of an example done in both Lua and C++. And then they've also got their particle editor that I was mentioning earlier on. Now, the first one we were talking about here, this is the Pong presentation. So you see here, this is an example game made in Pong. You come down here, you'll see you've got pong.cpp, which shows you how to create an nCine game in C++ if you so wish. And I don't like this example a whole lot. It's just kind of ugly. It's not a minimal use case like Pong should be. It just seems more complex as a starting point, and I'll show you where I would recommend you start. Speaking of which, there's also a Lua version of the same thing, so if you want to implement Pong using the nCine as your back end, here is the same process for handling. See, this just seems kind of, I don't know. But it is a starting point. You can definitely learn from it. It does show you a complete and simple game. But what I personally actually prefer is if you come into the nCine itself, the repository, the main one. So if we go back here, if you go into this guy right here, you will find under this folder is tests. And these show you different aspects of it in action. So if you want to see how the audio works, there's the audio test. Very simple, streamlined. And I find that this is the cleaner code to me. And I also find that it's more focused. So if you want to learn how to do create a scene, you come in here, app test scene, and it shows you, more of a streamlined, focused version of it. So if I was you and I was like trying to figure things out and wanted to jump into this guy, I would actually start with the test stuff. I find that this folder, it kind of was cleaner code, made more sense. And then if you can see here, the code style itself is it's C++ 11. It's pretty straightforward. Like you can see, it's nothing too challenging. I don't know if he uses auto at all throughout here. I know he's created his own template and stuff, so some of the STL overhead shouldn't be such a big deal. But if you know C++, you'll find this code pretty straightforward and simple to read. If you don't, good luck with that. He does one thing, this is 100% personal opinion. I'd love to hear yours down below. He uses a postfix underscore for member variables. So you can see here, and I find this exceptionally difficult to read. This is the way my brain works. Now, I understand why the decision was done that way. Some people use M underscore, find that to be an excessive amount of typing. Some people just use an underscore. Unfortunately, in C, that is supposed to mean a reserved keyword or a function, something that that you're not supposed to use publicly, although it's been so co-opted to this point in time that I just use underscore if anything. Or nothing at all, I guess. And in this day and age, with compiler tools that, when you hover over a variable, will easily tell you if something is private or public or not, I don't know, maybe I'd go down that road. But I'm curious to hear what your opinion is on that. How do you, when you're working with C++, how do you mark your member or private variables? Do you use a postfix underscore, a prefixed underscore, or an M underscore, or nothing at all? Let me know in comments down below. And really kind of nothing plus or minus against the nCine engine. It's just one of those things that it did that I personally have always disliked. Now, if you want to come in and check it out, head on over to their main webpage. You will find here there are samples and documentation. The documentation is deoxygen generated. So basically, it's based off the classes and the class hierarchy. So you come on in here, and you've got generated class instructions for pretty much everything. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty streamlined for the most part. And then the other thing you'll probably want to jump into right away is we've got build instructions. So for example, if you are on Windows, these are the step-by-step instructions to use CMake to build and generate your projects, and off you go. And then we've got build instructions here for pretty much every major option or every major option it supports. So Linux, Windows, OS X, and Android build instructions. We got some build instructions on actually building the examples as well. And that's about it. And I think that's about where I will leave this. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting engine. If you're interested in it, do be sure to check it out. Once again, it's available at ncine.github.io. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so here we go. The engine is a combination of engine and nCine. So nCine engine. Yeah, I'm going to go with nCine still. I like that as the pronunciation best. Also, let me know that in the comment down below. How do you think it's pronounced? I have no idea. And like I said, that's one of the challenging things about my job, where I actually have to talk about things I normally only read about. So you're like, I don't know how to spell that. Anyways, that's it. That is the nCine game engine, an open source MIT licensed 2D game engine available for Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and Android. I hope you guys found that interesting. Are you looking for for a small engine like this, or are you very content with one of the big boys like Unreal Engine or Unity or Godot? Or are you using kind of something in the Cocos kind of level, or XNA or something like that? And does this pique your interest at all? Or no way, no how, not gonna happen? Let me know, comments down below. Talk to you all later. Goodbye.